So here's part two of my weight loss journey. And I am going to do other videos that shows you, or not shows you, but tells you my in-betweens. I'll go into my in-betweens. So I left off with being my highest weight ever. And then I said, let's go to part two. I just don't want to make these videos like an hour long. I want you to be able to really listen and take it in. It's a story. I'm trying to keep it short, not bore you. So in 2000 and I can't even remember. I think it was 2008 was the first time my doctor has said to me, let's do oh goodness, I can't even think of it. It's October 1st, breast exam. And she was like, let's do a breast exam and just check on you. You're a little younger than I would request, but let's do it. I was already feeling very, very sluggish and tired at the time. And I was like, I wonder if I'm anemic, because this sounds like what anemia would be. And I was actually in New York City. I was visiting family. I remember I was driving. The law was already in that you couldn't be on the phone. So I pulled over because I got a call from Walgreens saying my prescription was in and it was iron pills. And I was like, am I anemic? Was this a mistake? What's going on? And then I got a call from the doctor's office right afterwards. And they honestly told me, they said, listen, we could rule out your right breast, but we can't rule out your, we could rule out your left. We can't rule out your right. We need additional exams. And so I said, okay, well, I'm in New York City. When I get back, I'll do it. And they'll notify me, yes, you are anemic. You have, we prescribed iron pills. I said, okay. When I got back to Florida, I obviously picked up my medicine, took an additional exam, and they still cannot rule out my right breast. So I had to go as far as a biopsy. And I did the biopsy. It definitely ruled out any form of cancer. So I have this weird little like platinum ball thing in there. Then you fast forward to a few years later in 2007. I probably had one of the biggest blows I've had in my life. My grandmother, who raised me, been part of our lives, raised us all, even helped with my niece and nephew that I took in. And I'll fill in the kid story, totally different video. She passed in 2007 and I was lost. For the first time in a long, long time, I was lost. I didn't know how to express myself. I had children to think about. I had my mom to think about. My grandmother was her best friend. And so it was rough. You could hear the emotion in my voice. It was really, really rough. And for the first time in my life, I threw myself into something outside of eating. It was a combination. Eating still existed. But I threw myself into my sorority. I threw myself into partying. I am grateful in my life that I've never, ever, ever done drugs, taken drugs. But I was drinking more. I was going out more. I didn't have to drink to party, though. That's the good thing. I'm glad I never fell into that addiction. But I definitely carried an addiction of throwing myself into something not to feel. And I still do. Still something I'm working on personally. So I ate and I was gaining weight again. And so not a whole lot, but I was gaining weight. I was teetering, dealing with those emotions. And then in 2014, I lost my brother. And I spiraled. I spiraled out of emotional control. I still, obviously, you hear it, I struggle. Again, him and I story is a whole different video. But we've always had each other. And so I decided to go to after about a year, my personal doctor, who I've had for 15, 16 years now, probably more, she has been through my life journey, and she said to me, I think it's time you really address your grief. And she recommended a program called Grief Share. And she goes, at Grace Family Church and religion, I'm gonna have a gazillion videos, because religion for me, again, is a whole different conversation. I was just like, I don't want to be a member of a church. I don't want to do anything. Like, if I go to a program, I want to go to a program. She goes, no, they really let you do it. So I knew about it about a year. And then finally I looked it up and I was like, I need to do something. I need to do something. And so I did. I went to Grief Share. No, you don't have to be a member of this particular church. Even though later I did start attending with my sister and her journey of healing on other things. And so we both really liked this particular church. We started attending. And actually today, someone from the church I still keep in contact with, I told her, I think the church is calling me back. But anyway, I started going, and I realized I really needed to address me with this Grief Share, with attending church. And it was because there's so many underlying issues I had that I was not addressing, that it makes it, one, easier to go to food, or it goes to hanging out, ignoring things around me, which has affected me in a lot of ways, including in jobs. And so I had to address these issues. I had to. So when I do Grief Share, I really started to self-identify on things, and I started to recognize behaviors tied to emotions, such as abandonment. Abandonment is a really big one for me with all the deaths I've dealt with over the years. I told you about my three major ones, but there were other ones in between that have highly affected me. And so I was doing well. I was really doing well. But with these emotions surfacing again, it was easy to go to. I didn't even realize I was doing it when I was buying ice cream. And I'm not a huge junk food person, by the way. My thing was, I was eating, even when I was full, I was eating. I was just doing it for the action. And in 2016, my doctor, I went to her and I said, I've been having this weird cramping. Like, I don't know. I feel it. I said, I forgot to tell you last time I never took care of myself with the anemia. So my doctor literally was like, we're going to see each other every 3 months. That's what we're going to do every 3 months. And I was on my way to an appointment. And I said, I had this weird cramping. It's not even that time of the month. Like, it's crazy. So she said to me, let's do an exam just in case. So at that time, I learned I had a lot of fibroids. I had a cyst on my right ovary. So of course it was just keeping it calm, making sure I take care of myself. Of course, over the years, it's always been like, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. It's like, yeah, I'm working on that, but I really wasn't. I was working on it a day or two out of a month maybe. And in 2000 and let's see, that was 21. So about 2020, I started having severe hemorrhaging. I literally had a menstrual cycle on some level for a year straight. And it drained me. It drained me so bad. My legs would give out. I couldn't focus. I slept a lot, where before I was pretty much an insomniac. And I went for an exam. I tried the procedure, and the surgeon he couldn't take out my right ovary, because at this point it had grown and became complicated, because the cyst developed through the ovary, and so the goal was to remove it. We couldn't do so because he discovered a pretty bad case of endometriosis. And endometriosis is a cell growth that can consume the back wall, the reproductive system. It really grows. It could grow to your organs. I'm not a doctor. I advise doing research on it. So he cleaned up the endometriosis but couldn't take out the ovary because it was an outpatient facility and we didn't know, oh, he didn't know the extent of it. So it was recommended I go to another specialist. Of course, he was retiring. I was switching jobs. I had to wait for the new insurance to kick in. So when the new insurance kicked in, I did it right away. And right when I went to see her 2 months before is when I started the menstrual cycle that went on forever. We tried a procedure that didn't work because I had developed a fibroid in a really complicated spot to get into. And so I was faced with the decision of, do I want a hysterectomy? I have no biological children. I'm already in my late 40s. And I said, let's do it. Because at that point, I was so tired and I was so weak, mentally exhausted. That's the thing with any journey, any experiences, the mental exhaustion. So we scheduled we scheduled to meet. And of course, 2 days before the meeting, I end up in the ER. I end up in the ER because my hemoglobin was so low, they considered me the walking dead. And me being me, I didn't even go the first day. Actually, I ended up in the hospital the day before because I was notified 2 days before to get my butt to an ER, and I ended up going the next day. And so I did call and I was like, hey, I'm going to the ER, but do we have to cancel this appointment? So my first night I was spent in the hospital because it was so low. They had extreme difficulty getting to my veins. I might tell you some of the funny stories of that day because nurses literally fighting to be in my room because they said I was so funny. And finally, this amazing nurse was able to find some veins so we could start a blood transfusion. Hopefully my only blood transfusion in my life. And I came home. I went to the doctor. Actually, I got out and went straight to the surgeon. And her recommendation was the hysterectomy. And they recommended a partial, leaving one ovary to help slow down the hormone change that will put me into menopause. But I had done my research on endometriosis and I had learned that keeping that ovary would raise my risk of endometriosis returning. Once you have endometriosis, whether you have reproductive organs or not, it can return. And so she said yes, and I said, then take it all. And she was like, are you sure? And I was like, absolutely, take it all. So in March of 2021, I had a full hysterectomy. And maybe I'll tell you the story around that too, because I had some landlord drama and I had to move a week after surgery. But I'll share that story another time. And of course, you're shocking your body. Your hormones change. I was saying about July of 2021, I started to realize I wanted to eat. I wanted to eat. I wanted to eat. And I was gaining weight. My hormones were changing. Now I'm crying at every commercial, sad commercial. And in October of 2021, I weighed in at 319 pounds. And I was like, no, I can't keep doing this. I can't. I think about the children who in their own lives have lost parents, relatives. And I was like, if I don't do it for me, I have to do it for them. I have to feel better. I have to heal. I have to move forward. And it was October 23rd, 2021 when I decided that I'm done. And I had relatives tell me, again, that talk that they don't realize how negative it is or how discouraging it is. Why would you do it before the holidays? I will wait till after the holidays. And I had it in my mind, in my heart. I just knew I had to start. So I did. So catch me on part 3 to see how I started and how I've been surviving this journey.